Hey, this is Michael O'Neill from the Solopreneur Hour podcast, and you are listening to Vroom Vroom Veer with Jeff Smith. Listen up.
Woo! That was awesome. Thank you.
Cool, man.
Cool, man. Hello, welcome to the show. Thank you for tuning in. Thank you for subscribing. Welcome. Okay, so Stephen Crutchfield. This is kind of like one of my favorite shows. It's like, I think the first or second Vroom Vroom Beer show that I recorded. And then for whatever reason, this is where it landed in the schedule. But you ever notice, like, whenever you meet somebody new, you feel like, first you feel like, this guy's amazing. And then you think the evil voice inside of you says, ugh, my life is so boring compared to this guy. It's never true. I've had a lovely, wonderful life. And so has Stephen Crutchfield. But okay, let's get into a couple of things that was cool about Stephen Crutchfield. Oh, his website and brand is Villa Cappelli, and I hope I'm saying that right. And they sell all sorts of products of Italy. So check that out. VillaCappelli.com. VillaCappelli.com. Check it out. Anywho, so the first story was about how Stephen grew up in Kenedy, Texas, and there's only one in Kenedy. So there's a story behind that. And then there's a great story about how he was in college and he did a trip with his friends. Wait a minute. Sorry. Back that up. He was in high school and he was thinking about, where should I go to college? Anyway, wait a minute. Yeah, I think so. Maybe he was in college. That's right. He was in college already by that point. First off, the first story that he tells is moving from high school, which was a very small town, the Kenedy, Texas, super small town, like the graduating class, his senior graduating class was smaller than his first college class at the University of Texas, I think in Austin. I don't remember. But anyway, it's been a while since I've edited this show. Anyway, so he that was a big beer story for him, moving from small town to big city, big school. And then another one, while he was in college, he took a trip to New York and had this great adventure while in New York. And then that planted the seed for him to eventually go work in New York. And then I don't want to spoil the end about the whole story. So, but this is fun. Lots of surprises, lots of twists and turns. What a great life. And I'm jealous, really, Stephen. I kind of want to be you. Anyway, without further ado, my chat with Stephen Crutchfield of VillaCappelli.com. Enjoy.
Are you ready to thoughtfully steer away from your revved up, frenzied, and far too often scripted life? Then welcome to Vroom Vroom Veer with Jeff Smith, where he guides you down the road differently traveled by sharing unique experiences with guests who have managed to shift away from a life stuck on cruise control and veered their way into a more authentic and fulfilling one in all sorts of interesting and kind of remarkable ways. Get ready to Vroom Vroom Veer with your differently traveled road chauffeur, Jeff Smith.
Hi, Stephen. Welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me, Jeff.
Yeah, and we met during Life After 8 Weeks beta.
Yes.
But we didn't really officially meet. We only Facebook met.
Yes, because our time difference was a little difficult.
Well, don't give it away.
Okay. Sorry. Oh, sorry.
Yeah. Let's leave the story grow. But yes, time zone is a challenge. How much of a challenge? Yeah. Okay. So we met during Life After 8 Weeks, which is it was in beta when we did it. So that was intended for podcasters that had finished their news and noteworthy time, and it was put out by Michael O'Neill, and he's an awesome guy. and an awesome
Yes,
podcaster.
Yeah.
And hilarious.
Yeah.
So let's talk a little bit about Stephen Crutchfield and your story. So, geez, we've got to have a fun way to start, but you started in Kenedy, Texas,
Yes.
and everybody wants to spell Kennedy the way the Kennedys do, but you guys, the city doesn't.
No, it's one end. It's
Yeah.
actually a great story if you want to know the story of how the town got its name.
That's fascinating. Yeah.
It used to be called Six Shooter Junction back in the day.
6 Shooter Junction.
Yes.
That's even better.
Yes. And the actual capital of the county was Helena.
Okay.
And the son of Mr. Kenedy, I don't remember his first name, but the son of Mr. Kenedy went into Helena, into a bar, got into a bar fight, and got shot dead in a gunfight.
Oops.
So Mr. Kenedy went to Helena and said, I want this town to tell me who killed my son.
Right.
And nobody in the town would tell him, who in the town killed his son in the fight. So he said, since this town killed my son, I'm going to kill this town.
Whoa.
So at the time, the railroad was being built. The railroad was scheduled to go through Helena, but Mr. Kenedy gave all of his land to the railroad. So the railroad bypassed Helena and went into Kenedy. And to this day, Helena is a ghost town. And now Kenedy is the largest town. Yeah, a real town.
But he got his revenge, didn't he?
He did. He killed the town.
He didn't really kill the town.
Well,
he made the town move.
into some degree, that's true.
Because killing a town sounds very Game of Thrones-ish.
Yeah, that's true. He didn't poison them.
He didn't
or shoot
literally
them down.
kill the town.
Yeah, he didn't ring a posse and no, but he killed.
He made the town go away.
Yeah, exactly. But that's killing the town. But it just sounds better to say kill the town.
Yeah. It sounds brutal.
Yeah. and that's how they renamed
So that's when they renamed Six Shooter Junction.
Six Shooter Junction to Kenedy.
And he only has one N in his Kenedy.
Exactly.
Okay. So what was life like for Stephen growing up in Kenedy, Texas?
It's a very small town, 3,763 people when I was there.
Wow. Now that is really small.
Yep. Let's see. My graduating class, I think, was 50 of us, and our entire high school was 200. So that just gives you an idea.
Right.
But I guess I wouldn't trade it for anything looking back at the time. I didn't know anything else.
Right.
Honestly.
It's your world.
It was it's my world. It was my world for 18 years. I grew up there for 18 years, never moved. That's where I was born nearby, but still born and raised basically right there. It's all my life. And looking back, I loved the small town experience in the sense of I was able to do so much and experience so much. So then I kind of found what I loved in that sense of
good.
I did all kinds of sports, all kinds of, in Texas it's called UIL. I think, what is it? University Interscholastic something league.
Okay.
I think that's what it is, which is basically like, what are those? It's usually, what do you call it? Academic kind of competitions. So everything from math stuff to science stuff to writing, which is what I love. I love to write. So then I got into writing, doing that kind of stuff.
Now you're going to get some of my geeky high school stories out of me.
Oh, yeah.
Because I grew up in a place called Menominee, Michigan.
Menominee?
Yeah.
Doesn't it sound like the song? What's the...
Na.
Isn't that Menominee?
Menominee.
No.
That's Menomina.
Menomina. Okay,
and it's just a bunch of sounds rammed together from Sesame Street, which is awesome. I think I don't know where it came from, to tell you the truth, but that's Menomina. I know it sounds a lot like Menominee. Right. Yes, but Menominee is actually a Native American tribe name. The Menominee.
Okay, cool.
Right.
Yeah.
So there was a lot of Native Americans around there, and so they named our town Menominee. And there's a Menominee River, and Menominee everything. And I also think it meant wild rice too. But then they named the tribe after the wild rice because maybe they grew it first. Who knows? I don't really know. But anyway, it was a little bit bigger than your small town.
Yep.
So I want to say that it was a twin city with Marinette, Wisconsin. So they both had about 12,000 ish. So together there was like 24,000 on, if you add them together kind of thing.
Yeah, I got you.
Yeah. And we dated, school girls from Marinette and, I mean, I could walk to Marinette. I could walk to Wisconsin from Michigan, I did all the time, all of my mom's family was from Wisconsin and my dad's family was from Michigan. So, there's this whole dual state deal, like the Packers deal, like the Lions. Yeah. I like the Packers.
So were they your big rivals then in high school? Like
huge. Yeah.
Yeah.
In football, in football, they called that the M&M game. The Menominee Marinette. Yeah. The M&M. Right.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah. Right. And for a while, it was like the longest lasting, rivalry that hadn't broken, in like the highest number of years, but then I don't know why, but they stopped. It had something to do with budget. Yeah. Because, the schools didn't
that's what
really
makes it fun.
I know. I mean, to me, it's like, what are you doing?
Exactly. Our rival was like 5 miles away, and it was like every game, it was always the biggest deal. And even though it didn't matter, they might not have been in our district and it didn't matter whatsoever, but it was such a big deal.
Right.
When you played the rival.
Yeah, I know. It's huge. Yeah. And then, there was a big buildup and we would make floats and you'd go egging and toilet paper.
Exactly.
Yeah. That's sort of like lost now. People don't do that anymore as far as I know. Yeah.
Oh,
anyway, and we played kick the can. Did you ever play kick the can?
No, that I don't know that one.
Okay. Well, it sounds like we were really poor, but it was a fun game. But there was a can and there was kicking involved. It was a great game. So anyway, okay. So that sounds, fairly typical, and everybody's 0 through 18 is like a very vroom vroom type of situation.
Oh, totally.
Yeah. It's like vroom.
Yeah. And I was very blinders on, focused, not necessarily, again, that was my world and I loved my world. So I didn't want to necessarily leave that world, but I wanted to make a better life for myself.
Sure.
So I was so focused on academics. My brother called me the leader of the nerd herd.
Awesome.
Yeah. So I graduated valedictorian, which isn't a great accomplishment when there's only 50 people.
Sure it is. Yes, it is. Hey, you got to be the big fish. Even if you're in a small pond.
Yeah. But I was just so focused on getting getting to a good college, I guess. And so that was my vroom vroom. That's what I think also one reason I was doing so many of the extracurricular activities as well. I was just thinking, okay, this will look good down the road on my resume, blah, blah, blah. So it was a total vroom vroom without necessarily direction.
When you're young, and now let me ask you this: did you have any veering moments? I mean, we all do. When I think about those times, like the big vrooms, I think is when you change, or veers when you're 0 to 18. I guess would just be when you're going to a new school. That's always traumatic.
Yeah.
When you go from elementary school to junior high, and then junior high to high school. Yeah, I remember that.
Yeah.
Or maybe you change a house or something.
Yeah. I mean, see, to me, from birth to 18 was so just standard. Like the same house. My parents still live in the same house that I grew up in.
Okay.
Yeah. I mean, I never ever moved houses. I went to the same, and my parents are both teachers. So, and so I had to both as teachers, which was odd.
Yeah. That's a little weird.
It's a little weird.
It explains a little bit about Chief Geek then,
Yeah. And I was also like, I would have to, when I had my dad in high school, I would have to poke the guy in front of me and be like, I'd poke my friend and be like, get his attention. Like I had a question and they're like, you get his attention. I'm like, no, you have to get it. Because he would be like, looking at his desk writing or something. I'm like, I can't raise my hand and say, Dad. Like, but I'm not going to raise my hand and say Mr. Crutchfield either. So it was kind of like, can you get his attention, please? It was such an odd situation. I was like, just get his attention for me and I'll ask the question. I just don't want to call him because then it's odd.
Weird. Yes.
It's weird.
It's weird.
But yeah.
Yeah.
No, but
that would be weird getting used to.
Yeah. No, but I didn't have much room. My big for me, the big veer moment, if you want to get into that right now. Yeah. From necessarily from high school all the way through, it was the blinders on, vroom, vroom. My veer moment came more when I went to orientation at college, and was at UT, University of Texas in Austin.
Okay.
You go through, I think it was a week before classes started, I forget. Maybe it was even a month. You have to go up for kind of an orientation thing, freshman orientation.
So you haven't moved your stuff yet. You're just going up there. Okay, right.
You just kind of go up and you're introducing you to kind of the whole program.
They're showing you around the campus and
that kind of stuff. Exactly. And so I'm going from this little town to now it's a campus of 50,000 students.
Yes. Whoa.
My first dorm was bigger than my entire town.
That's amazing.
So, yeah. And my first class in college was bigger than my entire high school. So,
you got some serious adjustment to do there.
Dude. But this was the orientation. So the orientation was so for all of I think 15 minutes I was a biology major. I don't know what I was thinking. I liked science in high school, but I don't know what I was thinking because it's just not my personality. But anyway, I went up to the advisors and, at this point, in high school, you're told kind of what you can pick classes here and there, but you're kind of told, especially in a small town, you don't have a lot of choices. You're told what you're taking. Like, okay, next year you're taking trig. Next year you're taking.
You're kind
biology.
of on either you're going to go to college or you're going to not go to college kind of.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. That's exactly what it was. So there was a few things you could choose here and there, but there wasn't a lot of choice in a small town.
Mm-hmm.
So I wasn't used to necessarily creating my own curriculum necessarily. So, I went to the advisor and they were like, okay, you need to take calculus and you need to take this and blah, 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 blah. And I was just like, or you could take this, you could take that, presenting me with like 20 different courses to take. And I was like, what are you talking about? Like calculus? What is that? I didn't even know. We didn't even have calculus in high school.
Right.
So I was like, I remember just going back to my room and luckily my brother was going to the University of Texas. He's 3 years older than me.
Mm-hmm. So
I remember just calling him and saying, what's going on? He said, what do you mean? I was like, I just broke down. I was like, I do not know. This school is not for me. I don't understand what they want. I don't know what course to pick. I was like bawling. I was like,
wow.
I don't know what. I was like so
thoroughly overwhelmed. Yes, right.
So overwhelmed. And finally, luckily he came and he was like, let me just come pick you up. He picked me up and he goes, look, just take all the basics. Like he goes, you're going to need the basics. Take a freaking really basic science class, take a really basic English class, and take you take all the boom boom. Like, don't worry about. And then if you need to take the math class, whatever, later, but just for your first semester, just get that. And then he told me what to take, and I was just after that, I was like, okay, I can do this. Like, focus, I can do this.
Yeah, and I can totally relate. Whenever something's new. I know in the past, and this is, I guess some of it's still hanging around in the adult version of me, but it's like, you always just assume you're an idiot for some, even if you have got like lots of evidence to say you're not, like you and I did, right?
Yeah, exactly.
It doesn't matter. It's like, yeah, but this is new.
But
right?
even speaking of being an idiot too, because I was going to be a biology major for all of 15 minutes, I was on my dorm building. My floor, I was put in the science and engineering floor. So each floor had different majors, basically. So you were
with your tribe.
Exactly.
Mm-hmm.
So my roommate was a physics major. Spoke another language. I have no idea to this day what he was talking about half the time.
He wasn't speaking German. He was speaking physics.
Physics. I was like, what the hell are you talking about? Cosine, blah, blah, blah. What?
Sure. Yeah.
It's like, and then, luckily I did create some amazing friends that are still my friends to this day from that floor. But I remember thinking, okay, I thought I was smart. I thought I was like top of the game because I knew I came from a small school, but I still thought, okay, I'm pretty smart. These people were a league of their own. I mean, seriously, I just couldn't believe the intelligence on these people, and they just blew me away, which is one of those things where I was like very humbling, but also very inspiring. You know, it was kind of like, again, I might not be able to do the math they're doing, but I can write an amazing, you know, paper, which I did all the time. So, you know,
it's almost like you're starting. Exactly.
Yeah.
You know,
yeah.
I gotcha. So like a parallel for me for veer wise would be sort of like showing up at Air Force basic training.
Yeah. So,
and there's a funny story that I'll generalize because I don't want to get too deep, but, I did, super well academically, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Because in the Air Force, they're looking for smart people too. So really you spend like a lot of time just sitting in class, you know, and getting taught by, you know, enlisted people, you know, sergeants and mostly. And they're telling you about stuff that's about the Air Force, you know, and you've at the end of basic training or somewhere maybe along the way, you're taking these tests, right? And they're just based on what you're learning in the book. And, you know, every free moment, you're supposed to be reading your stupid student study guide. So academically, I was like, I think I did really well. I don't know.
Yeah.
Right. But my first, what did they call them? Like training instructor. So they were TIs, not drill instructors like they have in the Army.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
But he was very much, he would find a way to kick out anybody in his flight. Basically, that's what they called us in their group. That was going to stop them from becoming an honor flight every time. He was like, every one of my flights are honor flights, and that's just who I am, right?
It's still kind of like Top Gun or something. I don't know.
Yeah. You know, right? Yeah. So, and I have 2 left feet, so I'm not really all that good at marching. All right. Right. Yeah. I'm never a good dancer. Right. You know, so
exactly. I'm the same way.
It's just me.
Not the same thing, but for band too. I was the same way. I hated marching in band.
I hated marching. I hated marching. So I would always, you know, so somewhere along the line, he decided that I needed to go. And so, you know, his tactic was there was like 2 required locker inspections, right? That we knew about. They were called the red lines, right? And they were pass or fail. And if you screwed up these inspections, and it's just they're looking at your uniforms and how you present your crap, and it's an attention to detail inspection kind of thing, right?
Yeah.
So, but he had the prerogative of inspecting every day. They called those blue lines, right? So he had blue lines every day, right? And so, you know, one day, we got our new uniforms, the blue ones instead of the green ones that we wore every day. And, you know, then the next day we had an inspection and I forgot like one thing 5 times. So he kicked me out of his flight. They call that recycling. Right. So I got recycled 2 days. So everybody's got to be in a certain number of training days while you're in basic, right? So my flight was on day, say, 30. So he kicked me into a flight that was on day 28. Right. And then I got to the end and my new drill instructor, flight and whatever they call him, a training instructor, he was like, well, you had the test score. So you would have had honor grad, but you got recycled.
I had a professor like that in school too. I had like a really good GPA, and he screwed my GPA up. He gave
out
me
of spite or something, or
but he was just. It was like, and it was a total optional night class that I took.
Okay,
and it was just like
you're filling in credits basically.
Yeah. I mean, and actually, I was doing it just as like, okay, this will help me. It was another writing course, which I enjoyed doing. So I was like, okay, I'll take this. Oh, he was such a
butthead.
Idiot. Butthead. I'm like, he only gave.
Idiot. Okay.
No, I won't give that story, but it pissed me off about that class. But anyway.
Yeah, I could tell another story about that, but let's move on because that was a nice tangent. Okay, so you're in UT and you're vrooming.
Yes.
Right. Okay.
Yes.
So then, you're getting towards the end and you're having another veer moment looming.
Yeah.
Just up the road. And these are the kind that you can see coming. So what's your next veer after UT?
Okay, my next veer. Well, I'll tell the whole little story because
Sure.
I was I got a dual degree in I got a BA in English and a BS in advertising.
Oh, that's good. That's very appropriate. A BS in advertising.
Yes. Exactly, isn't it?
I have a BS in psychology, so they're both appropriate.
Exactly, they're very appropriate.
Yeah.
But I mean, I loved advertising. I really, really did, and that was my goal. But my English was back in my mind. I always knew, okay, advertising is very hard to get into, very hard to get a start in. So I was like, if I don't find a job, and I can always go teach English. Again, coming from parents both being teachers, I knew I'd probably...
It felt familiar.
Exactly, and I thought I would enjoy it. I think I still would enjoy it if I ever did another Veer moment. But I decided, so I had those 2 degrees. Come my, I think it was my junior year, actually. My advertising club takes a trip to New York. They take a trip every spring break to New York to go meet with a bunch of ad agencies, take tours, get some contacts, especially with a lot of alumni, that kind of stuff. So I took this trip. Actually, most people take it as a senior year. I took it my junior year, I think, just because I had a lot of senior friends. Okay. And I kind of wanted to take the trip.
Makes sense.
Yeah. And I remember, it was a great trip. I probably shouldn't say this in case my parents ever hear this, but I really
do your
don't.
parents download podcasts?
No, they don't.
Probably not.
I hope they download mine. But
I hope so too. You have to teach them how.
I will. But I really don't remember a lot of that trip. I actually turned 21 on that trip. And it was actually the first time I ever used a fake ID, because for the first 3 days, one of the guys had a fake ID I was able to use in New York. So
before your birthday?
Yes, before my birthday.
Okay,
so
right, makes sense.
It was a very interesting trip in the sense of it was a whirlwind. We'd go see agencies by day, but then we'd do every single tourist thing we could possibly do until 1 or 2 in the morning, and drinking along the bars along the way. It was crazy. It was a crazy trip, but it was so much fun. But anyway, I mean, my thing was just to go have fun with my friends. It's a good opportunity. When am I ever going to get to New York?
Right. New York's great fun. And it hadn't been cleaned up yet, or had
no,
it?
That was still when...
what?
I'll tell you, this might be a tangent.
The 80s or 90s or what?
It was mid-90s, early midnight, 1995, probably.
Okay, so they started cleaning up. That I think Giuliani was still around, but so were the nasty things in Times Square were still there.
Do you want to really go
story? Go for it. That's okay.
This is part of the story.
I love
it. I think it was one of the girls. I'm pretty sure, because the guys were not. They wanted the what do you call it? The rated X theaters were still up in Times Square.
Right.
They're still there. They were like, we have to go. It's part of New York.
Okay.
We were like, why do we have to go? What is the point of this? Why do we have to go? I think this was a drunken moment at 2 a.m.
Sure.
I really...
It's kind of like going to Amsterdam. You have to check out the red light district.
Exactly.
Because you're there, you're there.
We're there.
Yeah.
And I think it costs $1 to get in. It was something stupid, whatever it was. We're like, okay, we'll go. So we get in. The movie's playing. So there's 6 of us. So we're trying to find a seat. The freaking theater is packed.
It's packed. Wow.
It's packed. I was like, okay, this is really weird. So we finally find 3 seats and 3 seats. It was just I won't get into detail on that, but the whole experience was just really weird. So after about 10 minutes, finally, I think I whispered, can we leave now? Can we please? This is so uncomfortable. It's so weird. So we left. As we're walking down the sidewalk, one of the girls looks at the other girl and goes, what's that on the back of your coat?
Ooh. It was something about Mary moment. Right?
Yes. Oh, and she it was freezing out. She takes off her coat and holds it out, as far away as she can from herself.
Yeah. Did she say, ew?
She walked all the way home with that coat, but it was just so disgusting.
Holding it out in front of her, kind of like,
yes, exactly. It was one of those moments. Of course,
was there a balcony, I hope, or what?
No, it wasn't.
It was just the row behind her?
or behind her, or she sat on it.
Oh,
or
it was probably on the back of the seat, maybe. Or something.
Yeah.
That's disgusting.
It was so gross.
So now a little context for people that don't know what's going on is in 1995, the internet didn't have porn yet.
No, that's true. The internet was even around. That was
the internet existed, but not insofar as having real, like, it was really slow. It was all dial up. Yeah. Right. You had CompuServe and Delphi and America Online and all these different modem based services, but they didn't really have it was all mostly text. It was a lot of text. The World Wide Web didn't really exist at that point as we know it today.
No Google back then.
No Google. They had a bunch of different search engines that started coming around about that time. Yeah. Different world. Completely different world. Right. Yeah. So that was group porn, basically.
Yes, exactly. That's true. Oh. And this is me coming Mr. Innocent from Texas, total. I really was pretty innocent still at that point. I mean, and progressively getting more and more exposed, because coming from a small town, you got exposed to a lot of University of Texas. Then you got even more exposed now on this trip. I was like, it was crazy. But coming back to the story, I remember my parents actually came to visit me. They came and picked me up at the airport when we came back from this trip. And I remember them saying, "Oh, so now you're going to go live in New York, right?" And I was like, "No, there's no way I could live in New York. It's like, it's big city. It's just too much. It's like gross and dirty." And, I didn't get into details, obviously, but
just how gross it was. Right.
Exactly.
Right.
But then I think it was a slow progression, and I'll say that was a turning point because it almost put it like a seed in the back of my head. I mean, I said no, but I kind of thought, well, I've been there.
Right.
I've done it. Like, it wasn't that difficult to get around. It wasn't like the people weren't mean. Like, people would stop. We were lost one time looking at a map, and people stopped and said, "Do you need directions?" And I was like, "Oh my gosh, they're so nice."
Right.
I find out later they are really nice in New York. So it just planted that seed in my head, and that, I think, was the turning point a little bit. And then I think it took the rest of my senior year, and even finally towards the last of my senior year, I finally realized, look, if you're going to make a go of advertising, the only place to do it is New York, especially as a young copywriter.
That's where all the agencies are headquartered.
Exactly. That's where all the agencies are. That's where all the advertising. You can do other places, but some of there are more they have some big names now. There's some in, I think there's one in Boulder, Colorado, and there's a few in LA and San Francisco, but they're more top. They take more senior people, so it's more creative. So it's much harder to start.
So if you want to get your chops, you have to start in New York.
It just seems like that, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
It seems like
at least that's how it was.
Exactly, and there's more opportunity there.
Mm-hmm.
I guess I probably could have found something in Texas maybe, but then again, I think luckily having those senior friends, there were friends in New York that had found jobs there.
Oh wow! Great.
Yeah, so I called them up and said okay, can I come stay with you sleep on your floor for a month?
Nice.
2 weeks and just look for a job. They're like, yeah. And they were great. So, one friend let me sleep on his floor for a month. I literally pounded the pavement. I think I visited every single agency in the freaking city.
Wow.
Everything I could, every, contact, you pull in all the strings you could from the alumni. Yeah. Exactly.
That's what
it was crazy. And I was determined,
and it's a good thing because, you're young and you're full of piss and vinegar. So you got to be doing something. You might as well be doing something constructive.
Exactly. I figured I might as well give it otherwise I'm always going to look back and think, what if? So I might as well give it a go.
Yeah.
I mean, I have nothing to lose. I don't have a job, so I might as well try to find one. And literally, honestly, the very last agency I went to go see had an opening. I had good chemistry with the guy. We hit it off. And then I think probably a few weeks later to a month later, I got a job offer paying me nothing. I mean,
literally nothing.
I mean, it was close to. I mean, and
Not literally
considering the
nothing.
cost, not literally nothing, no. But
Okay.
considering the cost of living in New York, I mean, I figured out when I moved there, 80% of my salary went to pay just my rent.
Wow.
Yeah, so I had 20% left over for food and anything else.
Heat.
That was for the first. Yeah.
Yeah.
So, and I could have probably found roommates or moved to the suburbs, but when I moved there, I wanted to be in the city because I felt a little safer and I kind of knew the area. I mean, I felt better in Manhattan
Right.
than being in like Brooklyn
One of
or
the boroughs.
Queens
Right.
boroughs. Yeah.
Yeah. You know,
So-
the thing that people forget, well, or maybe don't think about is everybody's like, oh, I can't afford to live in Manhattan. But if you don't, then you're committing to like, I don't even know, like hour plus commute, right? If you're going to work there.
But honestly, in the city, I lived in the city and worked in the city, and I still commuted 45 minutes.
Wow.
And the last 3 or 4 years, I would ride
Did you
my
take
bike.
the train?
I took the subway
Mm-hmm.
or the bus. Either way, like you could take the bus across town or the subway, and then it would almost always on that way take me at least 45 minutes, maybe half an hour
Okay.
if you're lucky.
Right.
But then I started riding my bike the last 3 or 4 years, and that took me a good 20, 25 minutes. So it shortened my commute a lot.
Nice. That's cool.
No, it was fun.
So
Riding
you're
the city-
basically like one of those bike messenger guys, taking
Yes.
your life in your own hands.
and I did. I got hit, broke my arm.
Wow.
Yep. It was fun. It wasn't fun, but it was interesting. And, hey, I haven't.
Oh, it's a rush riding.
No, but in New York, there's nothing like it. It's just, I don't know. There's something.
yeah.
I just remember you feel more part of the city. It was kind of cool. Like, I'm zooming in and out next to taxis and
yeah.
pedestrians. And I would ride through Times Square every day to get to work because it was just on my route. It was like the shortest way.
Mm-hmm.
And it was just kind of cool. Like, I'm like, okay. Because you never went to Times Square on your own in New York. It was like, why?
It's like all of a sudden you're somebody because that's what you're doing.
yeah, no, it was
Because
cool.
you're in New York and you're riding your bike on the street like a maniac.
Exactly. And
Now-
cursing at cab drivers who are trying to run you over. And it was
Oh my
interesting.
God. I remember, let's see here. I bought a bike while I was still active duty military and I started riding my bike here to work, mostly for fun. Although, mostly for fun, it's exercise too, but it's mostly fun.
Exactly. Yeah.
So, but like, I want to say like the first couple months of riding in LA street traffic, was horrifying.
Yeah.
And it wasn't the traffic, it was me. Because it's like the traffic has this big collective intelligence and they can tell when somebody on a bike doesn't know what the hell they're doing. And they're going to let you know. Get the hell out of the road, you idiot. And then later on when you learn, so I would be like, oh, I have to go figure out what I'm doing wrong. And then it's all like, keep your line and ride confidently. And then once you know what you're doing, then you're invisible, It's like, oh, that guy knows what he's doing. When you're confident and you know what you're doing on a bike, then people are confident that they can get around you.
Exactly.
Yeah.
No,
Yeah.
totally the same way.
Okay. So we're in New York. Oh, wait a minute. That's how you got your New York veer. So what was that like? What was your vroom vroom in New York like?
My vroom was pretty much like the high school. I put the blinders on. I did the agency life. I mean, that was my goal. Of course, it's always about where you can move up. What's your next gig? You're only as good as the last ad you did.
Right.
And so I was very much in my corporate world. I'll take you a little bit through all that. I mean, I worked at some of the not a lot of the big agencies. I worked at, if anybody out there knows the big ones like Gray Advertising, which used to do a lot of Procter and Gamble stuff.
Like 50 Shades of Grey?
Yes, exactly. That kind of stuff.
Okay.
They used to do.
So they were an agency that did big brand.
The big brand. And they weren't known to be creative whatsoever. And I'm a creative. What creative means, basically there are 3 or 4 different areas in advertising. Just to give you a brief thing, there's like account people, which basically are the liaisons from the agency to the client. Then there's the creative who actually create the advertising. So they'll
come up with a concept.
And the right. So then usually you have a partner. I was a writer, and my partner's an art director. So she'll help with the visuals, and I help with the writing.
Okay.
And you kind of come up together and the whole concept. But then there's like a media person who buys the media and deals with like buying, whether it's going to be a television spot or a print ad or whatever, and they deal with the actual different medias and where it gets placed.
Right.
And then there's also production, which helps you with the production of the actual advertising. Basically, like they'll help you hire a director if you're shooting a TV spot, that kind of stuff. Mm-hmm. There's different areas. So I was in the creative area, and Gray was not known for being creative, but it was a job, and it got me started, and that was my goal: get me started, get me there. I was very much vroom, like just keep plugging away, and I did that. Moved into a much better. Well-known agency, not well-known, better creatively well-known, called Bozell. Had a great boss there.
Was your role a little bit more creative in that one?
That one actually was probably, I went from getting fairly creative where I was to being less creative because I went to a very retail account.
All right.
But I was making twice as much money, so at that point I didn't care.
Gotcha.
But the thing was, again, it was always about moving and having the opportunity to work on something better. And this was they had much better accounts. But basically, I was hired to work the retail side of Verizon Wireless, and then from there on, probably for the next 6 years, Verizon Wireless was pretty much my life. I had other accounts, but they became my life, and actually ended up doing a lot of huge campaigns with them, including what people ought to know is the "Can You Hear Me Now" guy.
I was just about to ask about the "Can You Hear Me Now." Can you hear me now?
Yeah.
So you knew that guy?
Yeah. I can't take credit for coming up with the idea, but I will say I perpetuated his existence. Yes. We came up with. There were basically myself, my partner, and another team.
You had to keep coming up with new places to put them.
Put in, yes. And between the two, it literally came down to being just two teams, like my team and another team, and we came up with like all the ideas for a good 2 or 3 years with him. It was crazy. It was so much fun though, And so again, you're working your way up, and you're doing more fun stuff. You're getting to do shoots, and you're big directors, and it was fun. I got to do a little Super Bowl spot. I got to work with James Earl Jones, all that kind of stuff.
So, yeah, you were having a really good time there.
It was a good time, and then basically. That account moved to another agency, but I didn't realize this till after the fact. But the client actually asked for us to move with the account. I didn't know that. I just thought that the agency wanted us to move. But so we moved to this new agency. I worked on all kinds of stuff for that agency, from Kohl's, department stores.
So you kind of got traded. Almost.
Yes, basically traded. Yeah.
All right.
Become the same stuff. Yeah. And then different agencies, just doing the corporate life, going from agency to agency, doing different stuff. And different spots, there's always highs and lows, but I was definitely working the grind. And I will say it was fun a lot of times, but a lot of times a lot of work. And agency life was very much... I will say even 9 to 9. I mean, you got in at 9 in the morning, you worked till 9 at night. I mean,
consistently,
it was,
like all the time.
A lot of times. I mean, I won't say it was that bad. Mm-hmm. And especially as a creative, you can be a little more loose. Like you can go, I'm going to go take a lunch, so I need a break and get my creative juices flowing.
Mm-hmm. And you disappear.
My partner and I didn't do it as much as some other people did, but. I don't know. And I will say that it wasn't that bad, but you were expected a lot of times, especially if you're pitching a new piece of business, like you were expected whatever you had going, you drop all your plans and you be there till late hours, and you're going to be there till midnight, no problem. I mean, it was a grind. It definitely was.
Right. And you're on salary, so there's no overtime. Right.
No, exactly.
So it's basically the gilded cage sort of situation.
Exactly. Yes.
Yeah. The golden handcuffs.
Yes. It was.
Totally.
And I was definitely in that situation.
And now you're getting hooked on all the trappings.
Exactly.
Yeah.
There was a slight veer moment. I won't say it was a major one.
Okay.
I mean, I got through the corporate world. I was at a small agency. Basically, long story short, They hired a new top executive creative director who's like the top boss. And what usually happens, it's nothing necessarily personal. He likes to clear house and bring in his own people, which happens in all businesses everywhere.
Yeah.
So that eventually happened to my partner and I. Got laid off. Was off for I guess about 9 months. I think I was out of work.
Wow.
Doing freelance here and there.
Oh, okay.
But then I got hired actually on a sort of side business, which was not at a typical place where I had been. It wasn't a typical ad agency. I got hired at a magazine. It's actually the parent company was Reader's Digest.
Mm-hmm.
But I was working on Every Day with Rachel Ray and Taste of Home magazines, which are the big two huge food magazines, basically. Of course, everybody knows Rachel Ray.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I was doing like advertorials, which is basically sort of something between an editorial / advertising,
Oh yeah, those long pieces that are actually ads, but they seem they're like infotainment.
Yes, exactly. Mm-hmm. And sometimes you can sneak in a little bit more, like don't make it look so much like an ad. Depending on the magazine, you can make it like,
Yeah.
Basically,
it's a sneaky way of doing advertising.
Exactly.
And making an ad look like an article is essentially what you're doing.
Exactly. But hopefully it's also giving you, the way we did it wasn't necessarily just an ad either. It was definitely giving the consumer valuable information along the way.
Sure.
It might have been all about Philadelphia cream cheese, but it was how to use Philadelphia cream cheese in a different way than just spraying on your bagel. It was like put it in the sauce.
Now you might like this because advertising and selling are sort of like kind of go hand in hand. But I saw this Mike Rowe, you know who he is, the Dirty Job guys?
Yep, Dirty Job, yeah.
He did this little rant on Facebook where he talked about how he was looking for a job and he thought, well, maybe I could get a job in television. And this was back in the early days when QVC, Home Shopping Network, essentially. Yeah.
I don't know what the stands for.
I can't remember what QVC stands for either, but that was just the first one that popped in my head. Right. Yeah. So anyway, he saw an ad. It was like, come in and audition for this TV job. And he's like, okay. Sounds like a fun way to make money, right?
Yeah.
And he just basically, he gets into this room after, sitting around waiting forever. And he said, and this guy just walks up to him and says, okay, sit down and talk about this pencil for 8 minutes. And if you can do that without, going and stammering and running out of things to say and sound intelligent for 8 minutes, you got a really good shot at getting this job. Right. And he tells the story and he writes it all out about how, he extolled upon the virtues and the historical value of pencils, and he was just, riffing and improvising, and having fun with it, and just kept talking for 8 minutes about a pencil. And he got the job.
That's funny.
I love that. Cool. Anyway, so
yeah, I think that used to be the famous. I don't know if it was ever true. That used to be supposed to be also the interview question advertisers would ask.
Sell me this pencil.
Sell me this pencil.
Sell me. That's the Wolf of Wall Street.
Oh, is it?
Yeah. Well, they did that in Wolf of Wall Street.
I don't remember that.
It was in the beginning. It was in the very beginning, and then it was in the very end. So, and it's a very long movie, but basically it's like, there's a bunch of guys sitting around the table and, I think somebody says to Leo, he hands him a pencil and he says, sell me that pencil.
Gotcha.
Right. And he looks at the guy and he says, hey, can you write down my number for me? And he says, I ain't got a pencil. I got one.
That's pretty good. No, yeah, cool.
Hey, take a note for me. I ain't got a pencil.
Yeah.
Anyway. But anyway, at the end, his character is doing like a sales seminar, and he just picks people out in the crowd and he gets in their face real intense and he says, sell me this pencil. Cool. Right. And he keeps going to different people. Anyway. So anyway, there we go. I digress. Okay. So you're in New York. And again, I don't know. This seems to me, because I know the story, at least in summary, but it does not seem like a veer that you saw coming.
Sort of, but sort of no.
Okay.
Because I'll tell you the backstory.
Yeah, we need a lead up.
Well, was it 2004? My boyfriend is from Italy. He was born in Pisa, but grew up in Boston. But his family is from Puglia, Italy, which is in the south, which is the heel of the boot.
Okay.
But
wow, it's got to be nice.
Yes, and he was down here in Puglia with his 3 kids. He was married before, and he was visiting family. And he passed by. He went to go see his mom's property, which is down the road via Appia, which is an ancient Roman highway.
Nice.
And on the way back into town, they passed by this abandoned villa, and he asked his cousins, like, "Well, what's going on with that?" They're like, "Oh, it's been abandoned for 40 years. No, it's a ruin. You don't want to see it." And I know it looks cool. So the back wall had collapsed. They were able to get inside the villa, and they looked around. Paul's son, who was I think 8 at the time, was like, "Dad, it's a castle. You have to buy it." So long story short, we bought a villa in 2004, I believe it was, in Italy, and it was a ruin. It was, honestly, saying a ruin is actually nice. Ruin.
It's sort of like, yeah. You're giving ruins a bad name when you
exactly,
call it a ruin.
Yeah.
Okay.
No running water, no plumbing at all, no electricity, walls falling down, no roofs. It was a ruin. But we kind of figured, we'll fix it up, maybe use it as like a sort of a summer home. It'll be there for family, whatever it is. That was kind of the thought.
Okay.
That was kind of what we did. We did that for a while. I think the veer just came. I didn't think the veer was going to happen. I kind of saw it happening in my retirement, to be honest with you.
Okay. All right. So were you living in Italy then, or were you living in New York? Okay.
We were in New York.
Okay.
And Paul was going back and forth pretty much like once a month, a lot of times, just to like oversee construction and renovation, just because there's a lot going on.
Okay.
He's also in advertising.
Right.
Both being in advertising, we saw this as a brand. It's not just a home. It's also going to be a brand. We're going to like create kind of the story. That's what it's going to be for us a little bit. But again, to me, it was much more of in the future. Like my life was still vrooming with this.
You were still in vroom mode, right?
Vroom, yeah. I saw this great job. I'll tell you, the job with Rachel Ray and Taste of Home, loved that job. I had so much fun. My coworkers were amazing. My bosses were amazing. They were just so nice. They were so easy. And I took a huge pay cut, but I got to go home at 5:00 at night.
How refreshing. Yeah.
Yes. It was like, I was like, whoa, I can have a life.
Wow.
This is amazing.
I'm out of prison.
Yeah, it was great. You might be making more money doing other stuff, but you're not enjoying life. And that was kind of also kind of the turning point in my head too, of like, oh, like I can enjoy life. Like, why am I killing myself trying to make a living, with this struggling in advertising when we can do it that way? So that kind of started to click a little bit more. A little bit long story short being that job that I loved, they basically outsourced my entire department. So they called us all into my boss's office. Like, okay, so I was able to get you 1 month, but after a month you're all leaving. So it's kind of like, okay, I loved this job.
Damn it.
I know.
So you didn't see that coming?
No.
So
that was a total.
That was kind of a veer-ish kind of that you didn't.
Major.
Yeah, that's a veer you don't see coming.
No. And so it was one of those. And Paul's business was not. He owned an ad agency called The Ad Store. He did a lot more famous. He's much more famous than me. He did made GoDaddy famous. Did all
those ads in the courtroom.
Yeah, that's the one. He did the one in the courtroom. That's the one he did.
That's
on
great.
The Super Bowl.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Took them from number 3 to number 1 overnight.
Wow,
literally overnight.
I registered a couple of domains there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He
It
did-
worked.
Yeah.
Good job,
He did a
Paul.
lot- yeah, lots of great stuff. But basically, it was, the economy wasn't doing great. So advertising is the first thing everybody cuts. And we were both just like, we both kind of came to this realization, like, why are we killing ourselves to live here? And I think that came back to that moment.
My wife
where
and I are
realized-
asking ourselves that question now.
Exactly.
Yeah,
It was
because
just
LA
one of
is
those
just so damn expensive.
Yeah, and that's what New York was. And it was like we weren't enjoying New York anymore because you woke up, went to work, came home, ate dinner, went to bed. I mean, you weren't necessarily
living
like
New
going
York.
out
You
to
were just on
New York. You weren't going out to the theater. You weren't going out to the restaurants anymore because you couldn't. It was just crazy. It got so expensive, and it just got to be. I think after a while, we just both just said, "What are we doing?" And like, screw this. We have a house in Italy. It's not necessarily. It was getting to be where we had just started renting it out, and that's basically where that was the business. We started with this, which we now rent it out to travelers, and we also make and sell Italian products in the U.S. So we basically said, screw it. Let's just leave New York and go make a go of it in Italy. So that was a definite
That's a huge
boom.
veer. Yeah.
Yeah.
Boom. Boom veer.
Boom. It was boom.
Wow. So how's
I
that?
remember
When did that happen? That happened in 2012-ish?
2012, yeah. January 2012. I believe just after we got finished actually shooting a reality TV show of all things. We basically said, yeah, we were on AMC's The Pitch, if anybody ever wants to watch that. I think it's still on iTunes.
Interesting.
But, yeah, we were on episode 2 and 5, I believe. Really good episodes. Really, really well done show. And I wouldn't change it for anything. It was a fun show to do.
So you were on it as sort of like behind the scenes, or you were pitching? You were pitching.
They were pitching. The whole concept is two agencies pitch for a piece of business, and they follow the two agencies throughout the process.
Right.
Yeah. The first one, if you have a chance to watch, I think it's episode 2. It's with waste management. Such a good episode.
If it's on iTunes, I can link to it, I think.
Oh yeah,
because that's part of the story.
Yeah, no, that story is great. And then I think it was episode 5, which was for Frangelico, and that basically, I mean, you already know the story that we moved here. So yeah, it kind of gives you the story, but basically they actually almost end the episode with us moving here. It was actually almost
nice.
perfect.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it was kind of weird because actually one of my old bosses emailed me. He was like, "You didn't really move to Italy, did you?" I'm like, "Yeah, I did." I'm like, "Yeah, that's a reality show. We moved to Italy.
We really did.
We really did." But it's definitely been a change, but it's been an amazing change. So
well, the pace of life in Italy is a lot different.
Yes. But it almost kind of has come full circle for me, interestingly enough, because I grew up, again, in that small town.
Right.
So for me, this is our town here. I think it's like 15,000 people, the nearest town.
Mm-hmm.
And we live out in the country, basically. So to me, it's still very much a small town mentality. And it has that... It's very family feel, and has a very family oriented. It's all that stuff. So it kind of has come full circle to some degree. And
you've gone home in Italy. That's
exactly.
Great.
Yeah.
I love that. That's a great metaphor. Well, that's actually when I think about where I live in Southern California. Is I am basically on the. I live in Greater LA. It's a city called Torrance. I don't know if you're familiar with the area.
No, I don't know that one.
Well, yeah. Well, here's the thing. There's a bunch of different crowds, but the Hollywood crowd of LA knows absolutely nothing about Torrance. Torrance may as well be LA County. I mean, Orange County, right?
Yeah.
Or San Diego or something, because they don't know where it is. And, so, and it's funny because, and this is something I didn't know because, growing up in a small town, you just think like big city people are different and they're cosmopolitan and, they get around and they know things I don't know and they just grow up that way. Right.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's not true. It's not true. It's not true because I don't know if this is true about all cities, but in LA, because of the traffic, everybody stays where they are.
Yeah.
They don't leave their little radius. So
New York is the same way as neighborhood wise.
Right.
To some degree, people would always joke like we would not go below 23rd Street, no, above 23rd Street or below 14th Street
That's
when we
great.
lived.
Yeah, right.
We lived in Chelsea, and it was like Chelsea was our neighborhood. We went to eat. The restaurant's right there. My gym was right there. The barber was, I didn't leave. I left to go to work, which was in Midtown.
Right. But as far as like your life and fun was, right. That
if somebody asks us for a party to like the Lower East Side or Upper West Side, you're like, really?
It. No.
Oh my God.
That's like going to the moon or something.
Exactly. It's crazy.
It's true. The thing is I learned all of this for a while because last year for several months I was driving for one of Uber's competitors, Lyft, Lyft. So I got a really good education about all the different neighborhoods in LA. And I spent a lot of time in Hollywood and North Hollywood, Santa Monica, downtown and all of its fun little scary.
I love downtown LA.
Downtown LA is weird. You know, I'm cool with it as long as I don't have to get on the 110. If I can just stay on the surface streets, then I'm happy. But as soon as I get on the 110, then it's like I automatically want to go home. Because it's like I can see it. It's like, vroom, get me out of here. You know?
We used to go to LA all the time for work, and I used to. That was the one thing I was like, okay, I can never live here because of the traffic. I mean, it was just we'd have a call. Yeah, we'd have a call time at like 6 a.m, so we'd have to leave at like 4 a.m.
Right.
It's like what?
It's nuts. And if you did leave at 4, the thing is you'd be there at 5. But you have absolutely no choice but to do that because if you left at 4:15, you'd be there at 9.
Exactly. You're just sitting in traffic. It's just like, just
way
that's why everybody has
people.
Good cars in LA. Everybody has so many nice cars because they spend so much time in their car.
Yeah. It's like you're home away from home. You better be happy there. I don't drive much anymore because I stopped driving for Lyft. I'm walking around my neighborhood, and then occasionally I'll drive on the weekends and take my wife to Orange County or something, Yeah.
I don't blame you.
So I think we've come to the end of your Vroom Vroom Veer story. This has been a lot of fun. Yeah.
Thank you.
And thanks for being my first could be my first guest.
Oh,
Not
good.
sure. Here's the thing is with the launch, Michael's advice is to try to prioritize the people with an audience in your first 8 weeks.
Totally.
This is definitely show worthy. So yes, totally show worthy. So what I'll say is you're on the show. I can't promise you when.
No,
right.
Especially because it's first 8 weeks. You got to build that. You got because those people have to build an audience that you want to get.
Right. So I'm actually wanting to build a launch strategy and get as many, say like 10, 15 launch partners. And they're my first, I want to be on their show and then they're going to be on my show. And if they want me to pay them, I might, but I really want to have a huge bombastic kind of launch,
Actually, that's the problem I'm kind of running into with ours because ours right now is more of a topic based. It's going to be just us kind of talking about our life here,
right?
And which is fun and interesting, but it doesn't have so you have to build our audience much more differently. Like, I mean, I could have you on, I could spin it somehow because, ours is about it's called Living Villa Cappelli. So it's kind of the mentality as well as just the life here. It's the mentality of kind of what yours is veering, but the mentality of making a go of it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So we can.
It's almost like you want to take that Via Cappelli as a metaphor for something
exactly
that is like the I don't know, whatever you want to call it, the life of meaning or something like that.
Exactly.
So everybody's got their own Via Cappelli.
Exactly. So
that's what you want to do. You want to find people that metaphorically talk about moving towards their Via Cappelli.
Exactly.
You could do that.
I could do that.
You could do that.
But I want to do, I don't know if that's where we want to start. I almost feel like that's an evolution to it.
Okay.
Because that's, I don't know, that I kind of go back and forth. But that's going to be the hard part is getting the audience, which if I had people on that I knew had a built-in audience,
right,
then you kind of get their audience right away, their downloads, whatever, which helps you get in the news and noteworthy.
Yeah.
But I could also end up spending. But the good thing about ours is I'm very focused too, and very in the sense of like with the Italian stuff. So I could also spend some money and actually advertise to like the Facebook groups that are Italian or something, you know.
Yeah.
So there is some way to do it that way too. So that's kind of where I'm thinking I'm going to go first. Although, I don't know. It's an interesting. I actually joined. I don't know if you ever joined I joined the Podcasters Paradise.
Oh yeah,
group.
I've been in Podcasters Paradise for a while since June of last year.
Yeah, there was one guy that
it's
posted,
a great group.
That's one reason I joined it was mostly just for the
community.
The Facebook group. Yeah, community more than anything else. But although some of the
training's great too.
Yeah, the training's going to help me in the beginning.
And what I would do is let's officially end the show because I'm going to have to chop all this stuff off. Yeah. No. It's my show. It's my fault.
Yeah.
So, Stephen, thanks for being on the show, and I definitely want to do this again. So we might have to give it like 3 years because we're going to have to have more story.
Yes.
But this has been great, and thanks for being on my show.
Well, thank you for having me.
All right. You have a great day.
All right. You too.
Thanks for taking the time to ride along with us on another episode of Vroom Vroom Veer. For podcast info and show notes, be sure to head over to vvveer.com. That's VVER.com. Man, that's fun to say. And we'll catch up with you next time here on Vroom Vroom Veer.